Okay, hello everyone, I'm John. I'm editor-at-large at PocketGamer.biz. That's gone crazy again. So I'm not giving the talk that I have in the schedule, because that's kind of boring. So the talk I'm going to give actually I gave a talk in China a couple of weeks ago, and it was 10 monetization techniques in 10 minutes. So I've got 15 minutes, and I've got 24 to fit in, so it's going to be interesting to see how many I do. But if you don't understand anything, there is a bigger article on the website that is now live, so you can kind of read it from there if I'm kind of waffling on. So monetizer is something that I've broken the slides. Oh, so monetizer is a column I've been running for about a year. So it basically came up from another talk I gave, and it was basically a way of me trying to kind of analyze a lot of free-to-play games and kind of come up with some broad metrics where I could compare a lot of free-to-play games, normally ones in the same genre and ones that are using hard currency and soft currency. So I came up with this idea of monetizer, which is something we've been running pretty regularly since. Okay, well, maybe they'll come back in a minute. So my first technique is revenge. So revenge is something we've kind of had in Clash of Clans and these kind of free-to-play games. And I remember playing Clash of Clans, and the first time my base got trashed, and it said, "Do you want revenge?" And normally you get this kind of pop-up, your base got trashed, revenge. And I was like, of course I'm going to get revenge, the guy's trashed my base. So I went to trash his base. Of course, he was a much higher player than me level, so I couldn't trash his base. And then the second time it happened, I was like, oh, I'm going to get this guy as well. And I kind of made a promise in my mind. Everyone who trashes my base, I'm going to go and trash their base, or try to. And of course, after the 10th time, I just didn't care anymore. So revenge is kind of powerful, but it's kind of meaningless. So I kind of think, if you have a game that tries to use technique, you have to think about what you're asking the player to do. So if revenge at the moment is a fairly lightweight thing, we load up our game, our base has been trashed, and then it just pops back into life again. It's kind of meaningless. So if you're going to have revenge, you need to have some sort of permanent state in the game where you're actually changing something. Can you click these things forward? Oh, that was on before. Okay. So we'll move on to the second one. So I was thinking about how could we make revenge kind of a bit more powerful. So there are things like kind of a permadeath. So could you do things in the base where it's a bit more annoying that stuff is actually destroyed permanently in the base? I mean, that's difficult. But stuff like graffiti, it's kind of almost like a social technique. Could people graffiti other people's bases? That doesn't really change the gameplay, but it kind of is putting a permanent change into the game. Or if you have characters' scars. So scars are obviously something that are a permanent record of what's gone before. So these are all ways of kind of bringing permanence into a game where you're not, so you're kind of giving more engagement without completely changing the gameplay. So the third one I have is, again, about kind of permanence. I think a lot of free-to-play games are very easygoing and stuff doesn't really matter. I think if you're going to be charging for sums of money, you need to have more kind of permanence or things changing in the game. So troops, I think troops are not disposable. We've kind of seen a little bit of this, obviously, in the original kind of Clash of Clans type games. You had your army, you went and destroyed someone else's base or didn't, and then you lost all your troops, even if you had a whole bunch of them left. I mean, that always seemed bonkers to me. I think we're seeing now, I guess, with Boom Beach and some other games where you're kind of like, if your troops survive, you keep them. But could we look at some RPG elements and actually say, if we're keeping troops and they've survived the battle, can they not level up slightly? I'm not saying you're putting RPG elements into a strategy game, but there are ways in which we can make these troops a bit more valuable, and I think that kind of as players, that kind of gives us a bit more engagement in the game. And there are games kind of doing this. No, I'm giving up with this. So heroes, we're seeing a lot now, kind of hero games, obviously League of Legends and those type of games are becoming massively popular, and we're seeing them in mobile now, so there's a lot of MOBA stuff going on. But I kind of think heroes, again, we need to kind of focus on, our heroes seem to be very generic. But how can a hero be generic? You know, there's a kind of disconnect there. If we're going to have heroes, they need to be, I think, almost kind of unbalanced in a way. That's why we love heroes, because we use them in certain ways. They're not useful for everything. So that's another one for heroes. Okay, my fifth point is, I think clans are crap. I know it's called Clash of Clans, and I was in a clan, and it was the worst experience ever. Maybe I'm not a high-level player. Well, I'm not a high-level player, but clans are just, I find, they make no meaning for my gameplay. And I think for most low-level players, a clan or a tribe or an alliance. Oh, there we go. Clans are crap. Good. So I kind of think if clans and alliances are meaningful to your game, you need to put people in the game into a clan automatically. Or why do you only have to be in one clan? Why can't you be in multiple clans? There's lots of ways of, I think, of mixing this stuff up. And if you want people to go in clans, obviously incentivize them. At the moment, you kind of go into a clan. When I got kicked out of my first clan, it was like I'd been in the clan for like 3 months. I'd been really lovely, been giving people loads of troops. I just got kicked out for no reason. I was really pissed off. I almost left the game because some guy I never knew kicked me out of a clan. Which brings me on. No, next point's not coming. But clans are obviously generally groups of people that we don't know. But friends are clearly. Oh, there we go. So friends in real life, or even kind of friends who are online who we don't know, friends, there's a kind of like a social bind between us, and friends have benefits, and if I have friends, I want to help them out. In most games, I mean, we've had it in kind of a Farmville type game, we can gift stuff, but even in those Zynga games, the gifting mechanics I don't think are very strong. Why can't I gift proper currency? I mean, I know there's probably fraudulent aspects of why I can't gift hard currency, but why can't I just gift much better things? Because again, that's all tying kind of engagement in. Okay, so number 7. So we kind of, when we talk about kind of social kind of networks and stuff, everyone's using Facebook or Twitter or Kakao or Line or whatever the kind of the big network is. I kind of think that has worked for games when people have built big audiences from them, but now we're kind of seeing a fragmentation of that, and I kind of think historically we have seen some games companies try and build their own social networks, and that doesn't really work either, but I'm kind of seeing a rise, particularly in RPGs from Asia, of using like friend codes, and friend codes kind of came out of fashion. I guess Nintendo used them not very successfully, but if you have a very niche audience, I think kind of a lot of games now are going kind of niche for higher kind of revenue per user, and we're seeing that friend codes, referral codes. Get your friend code, and you get these good benefits. Often in actions in these games now, because we have these economies, we can incentivize things quite heavily. So I personally don't really like friend codes, but I kind of think for certain types of games, giving out friend codes is going to be a pretty powerful way of building kind of, you can link it back into clan networks, all this kind of stuff as well. Okay, VIPs. Again, something I've seen in a lot of Asian games, doesn't seem to be in Western games so much now, is VIP status. So this is something where you kind of, normally they go a bit over the top and you have multiple levels of VIP status, but a VIP status in a game, I think anyone who buys in-app purchase should be at a certain level of VIP status. They get certain things, they get maybe customized armor, they get whatever works for your game to incentivize people. But at the moment, I think we kind of play a lot of these games, and you're kind of asking the player to kind of create kind of value and kind of identity in and of themselves in the game. I think as game makers, we can do a lot more to say, maybe for certain actions, maybe you've been playing the game for 6 months, you're a VIP now. There's certain ways you can do that, and it doesn't really cost any money. It's just as I say, kind of armor and funny hats and different pets and anything that can be exclusive content in the game is a pretty powerful way of engaging people. Subscriptions. This is obviously hard from a app store point of view and fee structures and how you actually pay for these things. But in any other type of retail environment, subscriptions are a major part of magazines or gym membership, or there's lots of different things in the world we use subscriptions for. And obviously it works very well, mainly because people pay up front and then forget to use it. But particularly linking into a VIP system, I think subscriptions are a completely untested way of monetizing games. And they don't necessarily have to be paying every month. You could say, pay now and you get 6 months of this kind of VIP status or whatever it is. It doesn't need to be every month rolling thing. Okay, the third builder, or the fourth squad slot. So in strategy games, we've traditionally had 2 builders for free. Third builder, you have to pay. It's normally the first kind of hard currency or the first real money transaction people make. Certainly in Clash of Clans, a classic example, it was 500 gems. You didn't have 500 gems, so you had to pay probably $5 to get that builder. Same thing with squad slot stuff is coming with RPG type games. You have 3 squad members in your slot. You want to unlock a 4th one quickly. I quite like these because I kind of think with the third builder, I had 2 builders. I'm going to pay $5, okay, but I'm going to get 50% more efficiency now in my game because I've got a third builder. The 4th builder becomes harder because less efficiency. I think these are quite powerful gating methods. I think designers now, for other reasons, are kind of moving away from them. And you're kind of seeing now, so you're seeing kind of single build trees. So Boom Beach is the obvious one. There's no builders. If you want to speed up your buildings, you just use hard currency. Personally, I'm not really sure that works in the long term. I don't like that model, but depends on the game, I suppose. Okay, boosts. I guess we've seen the biggest use of boosts is kind of when you're in a kind of an end of level situation with King's games. So you kind of like reverse boosting in a way. You've not had enough moves to finish your Candy Crush level, so you're buying a boost to kind of get back in there. I kind of think you're seeing it in some games now where you're kind of getting a pre-level boost, so you're kind of buying certain kind of boosts before you go into the game. I think that's a good. There's a good ways you can do that. At the moment, I don't think people are presenting it very well. I think in a lot of these free-to-play games, the presentation of the retailing model is really very unsophisticated, and we need to think a lot more about kind of what we're asking the player to pay and what obvious benefits we're kind of giving them. On to 12, that's good. Moving along. So every day another prize. So this, I think, we've seen that when you normally go into these games, there's kind of stuff in the base to pick up new kind of resources. I quite like the daily. You go into the game. The first thing you see is a splash screen and goes, "You logged in today. Here's the thing. Here's the item you get." And often these are really good if they're chained. So you logged in yesterday. You logged in today. If you log in tomorrow, you're going to get this better thing. If you log in a month's time or a week's time, you're going to get this super cool thing. And some games now, even if you miss a login, you can buy back the login you missed with soft currency. I mean, I think that's quite a clever, sophisticated retailing way. But obviously, the prize needs to be worth people logging in for. Okay, so PvP, PvE, PvE, bracket P. So this is, I think, a nice way we're seeing sophistication in gameplay, not so much monetization per se. So PvP, I'm a very soft player. I'm lovely, obviously. I don't like PvP. I don't even like PvP to anonymous players. I don't really like trashing bases. PvE, well, everyone understands you play against the environment to kind of collect resources. And now you're seeing what I call PvE brackets P. So you're seeing games now where you're kind of attacking other bases, but there may as well not even be another player there. But obviously PvP is very important to a certain kind of demographic of players and in certain types of games. So we can't forget that PvP has gone away. I think there are better ways of presenting it, but it seems to me that as people are going, especially companies going for very casual, large audiences, we're going to this PvEP kind of scenario. Okay, if you remember one word at all from this talk, reciprocity, which is taking me about 6 months to learn how to pronounce it. This is the most important kind of thing I've learned over the last year. It's very simple. It's a retailing word. It's a psychological word. Basically, all it means is you're giving something to someone to gain influence. So we see this all the time in physical, real-world supermarkets, or even in charity kind of mail-outs where they send you a crappy little pen, and you go, "Well, I've got this crappy little pen." And the reason is, it just works. It massively boosts the amount of, not only the amount of people who reply to charities, but the amount of money that they give back because you got like a 5-cent pen. So reciprocity in games, I think, is the most powerful thing that developers aren't really using at the moment. And it's just ways of thinking. In some ways, it can be very specific, how you give hard currency to your players. And I did a quick study, and I noticed that hardly any games give more than the nominal value of $5 in-game currency to their players, no matter how long they play. There's probably good reasons for that, but equally, I don't think you're really so few players pay with real money. You're not really taking money off the table. I think games should be a lot more generous in giving stuff, and reciprocity is the whole kind of idea behind that kind of stuff. Okay, spin the wheel, gacha. So these are kind of I say, again, this kind of comes more from the Asian market. Gacha was so successful in Japan, the government came in and put restrictions into how much they could use it. But basically, it's a randomization thing. So you have spin the wheel. It's a random thing. You might win some prizes. Gacha is more to do with kind of card collection game mechanics. But kind of randomness is a powerful psychological force, and it's quite powerful because you're not really losing anything. You're only just gaining stuff. And people will pay, I mean, normally it's soft currency to spin the wheel. Chris is telling me 2 points or 2 minutes. So I think these kind of techniques, and lots of games can use them. You can have like you can spin the wheel, or you can have like one-arm bandits, that kind of stuff. Resurrection. So this is a bit like a boost thing. So resurrection power, I think, in a lot of games, obviously an end point of most games is at some point in the game you will die. That will be a bad experience. Your character will be dead. Really obvious kind of mechanic. Spend some money to continue your progress. And I'm quite surprised how few games do this. Inflationary pressure. We all know what inflation is. One game I've seen this in where you're doing repeated actions. The more often you do it, the more it costs you to do it. I think that's kind of quite clever way of doing it. That game is Royal Revolt 2, which you should definitely be checking out. Very sophisticated monetization in there. Time. The time is now, or the time is later. So when we're playing games, we're in an abstract world, and we're in the time of the game. We live in the real world, in the real time. We need to connect these two things much more powerfully. Other speakers have spoken about this before. So saying this is a limited offer, you have to buy it in the next 2 hours. That's pretty powerful. But sometimes to say there's going to be a special weekend event next weekend later, that's kind of creating psychological hooks in people's minds. So we have to think very carefully, much more sophisticatedly about how we link game time and real time. 19 vaults or shields. This is again going back to a permanence thing. I'm still going. So we used to have shields in games. I thought shields were a terrible monetization technique. It was just like, why would you play the game if you're just going to buy a shield and just completely protect your base for like a week? I mean, that was actually crazy. So now we're seeing these vaults, which are much more a kind of clever way of limiting the amount of currency or resources that your base can lose if you're attacked. And I kind of think this is a broader thing. This is a kind of sophistication we're going to be seeing from a very broad thing like a shield is now going to break down into what actually does the player want, and obviously you charge for it. Where we go now? So retail sizzle, as I've said before, I think free-to-play games are terrible at retailing. Just none of them, I don't think, are very good. Particularly even in terms of packaging, where you have like someone launches a game, and normally they're very generous. You get $5, and you're getting like $20 worth of value in terms of what you're getting in the game. But it's not explained to the player very well, because they've only started playing the game. They don't really understand what value is. We need to think much more about how we're retailing and how we're making these things exciting. Time. I think time is
it is about time, John.
I know a lot of game designers now tell me that they use time in-game. It's a gating mechanic. They don't want people to play the game all the way through. They don't want people to play their game for 24 hours and finish the game. They're using building upgrade cycles to stop people burning through content. Personally, though, I think that's quite frustrating. I think if I want to play the game, I want to play it for as long as I like. And I think we need to rethink about how we're looking at in-game time. But that's a long subject. All your push notifications are belong to us. So I also believe in push notifications. I have tried to write an article which was the 10 best push notifications ever. I was working with a company who did push notifications. I asked them to ask all their developers what their best push notification was. We couldn't get one. I've never seen one good push notification. I've had push notifications that say, this event is happening now, come back to the game. I've never had one that's exciting. I've never had one that's funny. I mean, you need to buy script writers. You need to get some script writers to do push notifications. I mean, at the moment, they're absolutely awful. But they are very powerful. I understand that they are. But no one uses them. That's the thing now. When it comes up, do you want a push notification? Everyone goes no, because they're really boring. How many more have I got? Okay, again, not really going to talk about this. Secondary currencies is something that's very big that's coming in. The most sophisticated free-to-play designers are now using this. They're not soft currencies, they're not hard currencies. They're basically created by progression in the game. So we're seeing it. I mean, Boom Beach is the obvious one with stone. Clash of Clans had it with oil, and now you're seeing even more sophisticated ones that are kind of, they're not really resource currencies. But that's another article in and of itself. And if all else fails, goes pay. So paid is definitely coming back in. I think the debate that free-to-play is evil is gone, but there are certain types of games that work really well as paid. Apple is clearly moving towards encouraging people to make paid games. It's everything we're seeing with user acquisition is. I don't think Apple is not going to ban free-to-play games, but you can see from a curatory point of view and all the platform API stuff it's doing, it wants exclusive games really for Apple, and it kind of prefer them to be paid. And there's a model there. It's not a free-to-play game as we understand. I mean, you're not going to make $1 billion from a paid mobile game, but the option is there. Yes, obviously don't try all these techniques in one game. Depends what your game is what you can do. And that's it.
Whoa, blimey.
Oh,